So I left off yesterday talking about learning how to open up and emotions and all that stuff, right? And feelings. I'm gonna hit key highlights, just go boom, 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 and then we'll talk about it, discuss. I want to hit some points that I forgot and missed that are important to say. So, like for instance, we spoke about the Grim Reaper and that whole experience, and it's a story I've told before, so you know it well. But because of the dynamics and the distractions and the conversations, and there's so much to be said, I forgot to tell a key part. So that day when the Grim Reaper showed up, when Death showed up and then walked up to the floated up to the door lining, and we stood there frozen, and then it disappeared before our eyes. After it disappeared before our eyes, we got about 45 minutes sleep that night, and if that. And when we woke up, we were told that the guy that lived right upstairs from us, which was and one of our aunt's boyfriends or whatever, um, he had passed in his sleep. He had cancer. He had been struggling with cancer, whatever, and he had passed in. He was in the hospital. He wasn't in that room, but he had passed in his sleep that night in the hospital. And then it was around that same time frame is what they told us. So but that showed up there, and that guy, his bed was above our bed. I don't know if he was came back to visit or what, and then got him there. But that guy died that same time frame. He passed, so I know that death came from him. Still in touch with those people, so I know them. I've spoken to them. I've asked about him. I know some details. I won't give. That's their business, so I'm not going to speak on it. But that was an important part of that experience to know. As children, we experienced that, and that's what happened. There was something else I know I forgot, but I trust that it'll come back or it'll come up when it's supposed to come up. So we'll go forward from there. Um, so let's see. There was a couple of things. There was an incident where I'm trying to keep it in chronological order as much as possible. So there was an incident where um, I've I've seen demons. I've seen angels. I've spoken to demons. I've spoken to angels. I've experienced God in a unique way, and I'll talk about that. I was for a while, and ever since that Catholic school experience with the Bible and everything, I just found the Bible to be so full of contradictions, where some stuff was good and some stuff was right, but some stuff wasn't. And with nobody really able to teach me, because even the nuns were teaching me stuff that was telling me it was wrong. Something inside was telling me it was wrong. I kind of gave up on it for a while. So I eventually would go on to study theology and study all these different things biblically. I've gone to Jewish churches, and I've got Muslim brothers and all this stuff. So I've checked out Buddhism. I've checked out all kinds of stuff because this was my childhood. So I've always had questions. So I saw answers, and I tried to take in what I could and understand and decipher what was true and what wasn't according to the voices and the feelings and all that stuff, um, which is eventually what would lead me to where I am today. To just a couple of, and then if you guys have questions on any of the ones I just said, we'll go in and I'll go over details. I died. I came back into my body. I saw my soul. I had an experience on the Bible subject. I had an experience where much later in life, I prayed deeply on a question. It was a real bad night for me. And I had this dream. And these dreams that I have, I talked about the dreams that I learned how to control. Those are regular dreams. There's these other dreams that I get, and it's not always when I'm asleep. Sometimes it's while I'm awake. It's like these visions. And we talked about energy having a signature. Every energy has a signature. Well, these dreams had their own signature. They've they are the kind of dreams that when you wake up, you feel like it was real. When you wake up, it stays with you throughout the rest of the day or even longer sometimes. When you wake up, you can't seem to get it out of your mind. It just replays and replays. Those are these kinds of dreams that I'm talking about. Some people call them prophetic dreams. Again, I'm trying to stay away from the word, but but they're different. These dreams are different. These kinds of dreams, I would have them throughout my life, and they've always come true. 100% true. The accuracy rate for these dreams is 100%. Never any failure. The accuracy rate for the single voice that I've heard, 100% right, never wrong. Where I get mixed up is in my own energy. When I'm connecting with someone or I'm feeling something that isn't the same as that voice, it isn't the same as a vision, but it's more of a feeling, I have maybe like a 95% accuracy. So there's room for error there. And so that's where I make my mistakes sometimes, and I have to check myself, and I have to pray on it. I have to figure out, is this me or is this, and I have to kind of go through all that journey. But these dreams would happen. So I've had several of them, to include one where my mother, my brothers and sisters were involved, and I was told to warn them not to go out for 3 days, and I let stuff get in the way of that. And 3 days later, I finally got to them at that last day, and my mom told me it was too late. They had got jumped, and my baby kids and everything, they all got jumped. They were getting beat up by these wannabe thugs. They got hurt, but they survived, and everything was okay. But it was a pretty bad situation. And that's the situation I was supposed to warn them of 3 days prior. But I didn't. I let stuff get in the way. So when I don't follow specifically these dreams or that voice, people die and people get hurt. The voice was the same thing I heard when my sister passed. I had 2 situations where it was between a mix of feelings and a voice involving 2 individuals that were close to me. And I didn't listen. I allowed things to get in the way, just like all those other times. I allowed excuses. I didn't understand what I was denying. I was lying to myself. So I didn't want to accept these things because I was taught that I'm crazy, you know? I was essentially like, I've got no outlet, so I don't know what to do with them. So I'm like, yeah. And I let the other distractions, because I promise you there will always be something that's going to try and get in the way of you fulfilling your purpose every time. And I allowed those things to happen. I didn't fight past them. I didn't fight through them. And because of that, those 2 people who I care about died. They killed themselves. And I was fully 100% in a key position both times to help those individuals. And I failed them. I failed them because I didn't listen. I failed my sister because I didn't listen. I failed my mom and my siblings because I didn't listen. People get hurt when I don't listen. 2019 came early last year, and I knew all of the stuff that was happening this year before it happened. Early. I knew everything. I spoke on it, and I wrote on it. So there are witnesses to testify to that. But I spoke on it in a way, and I wrote on it in a way where it was playful, where it was like, oh yeah, I got this feeling, because it was always half-heartedly. I was never committed to, no, this is for real, okay. Because I was still kind of in denial. So I knew that these were things that were happening, and I knew I had to say something, but I was afraid to come out and say it the way I'm saying it now. I was afraid to be out there, to put my face on it, to say, this is, I know this is happening. So instead, I would say it to maybe 1 or 2 people that I kind of feel a little bit comfortable with, or that I'm trying to establish that trust. I'm trying to say, see me, so that I can feel secure enough, safe enough, without ridicule, to show myself. So I would give them bits and pieces, but again, it's usually one of those things that gets dismissed, like, oh yeah, until it happens. And sure enough, a lot of lives were lost this year, and are going to continue to be lost. And I'm not saying I could have changed it, because there's a lot of people who probably wouldn't have heard me. I'm nobody. Like, what? Right? And it's not about me. It's about the message. But we all know that in this world, that's what we do. We look to the person. We look to the individual. Because it's easier to assassinate the character than it is to bury the message. Yes. Which is why, again, this absolutely cannot be about me. Cannot be about me. After this, I'll disappear. I'm going off grid. I'm going to just do my thing on purpose. If I die, I'm sick, so that's okay. Not conspiracy theory, nothing like that, right? It's not about me. I don't want my name. I'm not going to speak on it again publicly or on camera or anything else. But still, had I at least tried, had I at least said something, there might have been 1 person that took me seriously that might have saved their lives. Or 2, or 5, Yes. I don't know what difference it could have made, but I know that I had the information for a reason, and I was supposed to speak on it for a reason, and I didn't. I spoke to like a person, kind of jokingly. What else? So in this dream that I had, this one dream that I had a while back, going back to the Bible thing, I was like not really into the Bible, right? I'd studied it, I read it a little bit, but not really, not the way I was going. I went more into theology, I went more into ancient cultures and history and all these other things, and I sampled other religions, but I didn't really go into. I went into the Bible in Bible studies as a kid, and that was it. I didn't do it as an adult. I didn't do it as a teenager. You know what I mean? And it's different. Yes. So I had this dream. God answered me. He gave me a very specific verse in the Bible and said, "This is the answer to your question." And that verse happened to be like one of two places I would learn from another Christian that was like a Bible thumper. At the time, they're like, "Oh, there's only 1-2 places that you have, like it's like a triple set digit number, like 2, 14, 25, something like that, right?" They're like, "There's only 2 places or whatever," and all this stuff. So I'm like, cool, I didn't know that. But in the dream, it happened repeatedly. I was at a table, there was just a light, and there was a hand coming from behind me that was also a glowing light. The different energies I felt, one of the angels I talked to was my own guardian angel. This wasn't an angel. It wasn't a demon. It wasn't death. It was either God or maybe Jesus. I don't know. But it was definitely more of a God energy, which I had experienced previously too. And like I said, we'll dig into all of these. If you got questions, I'll go through more specifics. But just to give, these are key, important points because I wasn't into the Bible. Because it does contradict itself. I say that to this day. But yet God still used it to show me answers. God still used it to show me his word. And not only did he show me the answer, but then he said, "This is your answer. But what you really need to understand, what you really need to know is this entire story." And it was the story of David. He said, "You need to understand the entire story of David to understand your journey." Everything about it, beginning to end. They are going to try to make you forget. Do not let them make you forget. And he repeated this. This happened 3 times because I was being woken from that dream and then ended up in that dream again. And woken from that dream 3 times. And woke up with it in that feeling, like I said. And then I went straight to that Bible and I'm like, oh, snap, this is real. Like, I had this dream. I wasn't a Bible thumper. I could not pull this from my subconscious. You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty damn deep if I'm going to when I was a kid. Only thing I remembered about David was David and Goliath. That's it. So I had to study it and study it and study it. And more and more, I'm starting to see what he was talking about. But that was his message for me. That may not be, oh, everybody go study your story. That may not be your story. But what I did learn from it is that was my confirmation of what I already knew when I was younger, my education. That was my confirmation that God's word is everywhere. God's hand is everywhere, even in the middle of the corruption, right? So it's not to dismiss the church. It's not to dismiss the priest. It's not to dismiss the Bible. It's not to dismiss scripture. And it's not to say believe what I believe. This is meant, take it as fiction. Atheist, whatever you are, religion, Buddha, whatever. Take it as fiction. Take it as a story. Take it and sit on it. And if something rings true to you, if something feels right about what I'm saying, then that's something that my challenge to you is to explore that. Pray on it to your God, go into your religion, whatever it is, and explore that deeper and find out what that is for you. Find out what your message is. Maybe your story is a story of Adam, or a story of Noah, or a story of Jesus, or the story, I don't know. And it's not about a cult. It's not a start a new religion. This is what's right. I'm just giving you my story. That's it. You take it and you apply it to what you believe and what you know. All I'm asking is question everything, challenge everything, but you have to be open enough to not be afraid of the information that comes at you. You have to trust in yourself and in whatever God you believe in, that you have the strength, and he will guide you, he, she, whatever will guide you, so that the information that's being presented to you is not, oh, that's of the devil and it's trying to take me away, but that you could face the devil himself and say, tell me what you want. I will not fall for those lies because I know the truth, right? But at the same time, not close off someone who maybe is not of the devil, is not telling you evil, and you close off that information that is of God because you think that may be of the devil, right? So it goes back to understanding the good and the bad. You've got to understand both. It's scary to face the bad. It's scary to face the negative. It's scary to face your shame. It's scary to face your sins. It's a hard thing to do. But if you don't face them and you don't understand them, then you can't understand the light as well. And you're not going to be able to differentiate what is truth and what is false other than what is being fed to you, what is being taught to you, what you are seeing from outside. All I'm asking is, don't just look from outside. Don't stop looking from outside, but don't just look from outside. Look from within, right? Get your education, but look for your confirmation. And your confirmation is going to come from a spiritual source or an energy, if you will. I'll give you an example, right? So I'm talking to a bunch of family members. I'm basically filtering out who's lying and who's telling the truth, right? And I get to a point where I hear that voice in my head. I know the voice now. I'm learning that signature. I hear a voice in my head, and it says, do not announce what you're going to do. Act on what you're going to do. Simply do it. 2 hours later, I get a text from someone. And the text says, just like this, it says, move in silence. No communication. This is not YouTube. This is not TV. This is not a Bible I read or a priest that talks to me. This is literally, I'm in my home. A voice tells me this in my head. And 2 hours later, this other person that is connected to me, but we had no communication, sent me a text saying, move in silence. I was like, okay, I know what I have to do. I know that's confirmation, right? My education came from within, from God. My confirmation came through another source, also from God. And I was able to, you can see that connection. You feel that, you know when it's confirmation, right? The stuff that I believed as a child about us being energy and light, way before all this stuff, I found, and I'll give two references. I found a really good documentary that is called Superhuman. I recommend that everybody watch it. It's like $8. You buy it on Amazon Prime. It's worth the buy, not just a rent, because you can rewatch and rewatch it. It's an award-winning documentary, of course, and they take a look scientifically at basically a lot of the concepts and principles that I'm saying. Right? They don't put it together the way that I'm saying, but they take a look at that and they're able to prove the science behind the energy and the so-called telepathy or the so-called prophetic whatever, right? They actually expose that in a scientific way to show what we really are. Me looking at it, I think they got it about 90% right. So again, I'm not agreeing with 100% of it. I'm saying 90% right, but it's worth looking at because there's truth in it. So even if it's not all true, there's truth in it. You have to go and look at it and decipher what you believe is true, if any of it, or not. All right? I'm not telling you this is the way. I'm not telling you this is the way. I'm telling you my story and my confirmation of my story, and I'm saying take a look. Take a look, so sit on it, think about it, apply it to your life. This way, there's no cult coming out of this. You know what I mean? This way, it's not, this is what, it's not, I'm not a structure, I'm not building a Bible, I'm not building a church. It's connect with your God so that you can connect with yourself and you can connect with your brother and you can connect with your sister and you can connect with your family. That's all I'm saying, right? And I know a lot of people that think that they do that. Most of my family. I did it myself. You think you're doing it. You think you've arrived. You think, and the minute you do, you're lying to yourself and you stop yourself. You think you're walking the right path, and the minute that you think that you're to this day, every day I pray, use my tongue, guide my hand, and every day I apologize because even though I'm asking him to use my tongue and guide my hand, it's still a matter of free will. And there will still be those things that are going to throw distractions and obstacles in your way to pull you off. That's not going to stop just because you're walking with God. That's going to increase because you're walking with God. That's going to increase the more righteous you are. You will have challenges to face, and if They're slick. They are so sly. You never see them coming. They play. If you have pride as a sin, they will pull on that pride. If you have ego as a sin, they will pull on that ego. If you have whatever it is, anger, they will pull on that anger, because it's the easiest way to get you caught up in it and to blind you to it. To the point where you either, so if you have fear, you're going to be so overwhelmed with fear, you're not going to want to come out that bubble. They want to box you in to your sin. So the more you're doing right, the more it's going to be in your face. I've had those challenges every day all the way up until coming here. My whole trip here. I've been traveling for a very long time, right? We all know that. I'm very savvy with finances and what I do, right? I had cash with me. I lost my cash. I had a bank card with me. ATM ate my bank card. I had a credit card and I left it home because I was trying not to use the credit card to bring it down because I'm working on my finances. So I literally end up at this Chicago airport, no food. I'm sick. I'm disabled. If I don't eat the right foods at the right times, I get worse. And it gets really, really bad, really quick. Really quick. I end up in this position where I'm hungry. I got no money. I went to the ATM to get money to go eat. Took that. No cash, no nothing. And I got a message for these people, so I'm going to save it for later. But there were these 3 individuals out of everybody, because I had a fight with people, and people were horrible today. It's no consideration. No, you're my brother. No, you're my sister. That's not my job. That's not my. I don't. You're disabled. You've done all this stuff and sacrificed so much. I don't care. It's not my job, right? They don't look and say, how can I help you? But these 3 people, these 3 beautiful souls, they blessed the heck out of me. They blessed me. I was fed for the rest of that day and the next day through lunch, and had a smooth trip. And because I actually did things, normally I'm very, what was the word? I like to surprise people. I'm very kind of on the whim, right? So normally I don't really make plans. I kind of think things through for just in case scenarios, but I don't really make plans. I just kind of go on them sometimes, or if I do, it's a really short last minute plan. I didn't plan any of this. This kind of lined up. That's a whole nother story. And I ended up here. But I wasn't going to make plans for arrangements to stay here, to travel, to do any of that. And a voice told me to do it before I left my location. And I did. And I paid for it in advance, and I did everything in advance. And so when I finally got here, I had no problem getting to where I needed to get, sleeping, transportation, all of it. Up all the way up until the point where I got here. And then I was blessed by my family to hold me over until I got a new card and I got a new situation coming in and all that stuff. There were so many things trying to stop me. I finally arrived here. I'd been feeling good because I'm on a new process for my health. I'd been feeling good for about 2 weeks. I finally get here. I'm excited. I try to eat something I haven't eaten in a long time. I start to get sick. When did I get sick? Right before our very first session. That's when I got sick. I almost passed out. Right before our very first session, I almost passed out. When I came in, this cat, who's never been afraid of me, stood in the back and hid. Was terrified of what they saw around me. Of what he saw around me, right? Because there was negative energy around me. And everything, every obstacle it could throw in my way, everything it could throw in my way to stop me, it tried. To the point where when I sat here and I almost passed out, the only reason I didn't is because I fought through it. When I started speaking, I felt like crap. And I kept going. And by the end of it, I felt great. And by the end of it, the cat came back out and was around me. Right? That's how it works. But I had to make a choice through every obstacle, through every step, saying, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to let this bring me down. Oh, I feel like crap. Why, Father, do I feel like crap? Why you let me be sick? No, I'm going to keep going. That was it. There's no why and oh, I understand. I understand because it's not, oh, you're so almighty and you have all this power, you can just change. No, it's free will. It's free will. And through the obstacles, if we can, it's easy to say, I love you, Mom. I love you, Dad, when everything's great. But what happens when a teenager doesn't get their way? I hate you. I hope you never existed, right? He's a parent. It's free will. You have to be able to say, even when your parent is wrong, even when they're in your face, you still have to be able to say, even if you're arguing and saying you're wrong, you still have to be able to say, I love you. I love you. I will still lift you up, but you're wrong. You know? But I love you. Right? So it's not why me or it's I love you. I'm still going to lift you up. I know that I have choices to make. And each step of the way, I can choose that negative path because it's usually easier. I can be lazy. I can give up. Which is what I did a lot of the time. I was lazy. I gave up because I kept telling myself what I would see, this confirmation, right? I would turn this whole 2 weeks that I was going through this whole spiritual thing. I was like walking in two worlds. That was a whole nother thing. And I would turn on the news, just the news, not YouTube or anything else. And it was news channels that normally all you hear for the last couple of months is Rona and politics, and it gets exhausting. All of a sudden, they're doing these specials on the news, and each special has people speaking about different subjects and different things, and every single point that they hit was stuff that I had just been going through in this. It was being showed to me and taught to me in these visions and in this voice that I was going through, and then it's popping up right, like literally the next day, the same day. That's confirmation. You know what I mean? This is live news. This is not TV that's repeating itself. This is not YouTube. This is not, oh, you got this because you like that, watching that. This is just live news. It's whatever they choose to report. And it just happened to be on par. Never experienced that in my life before with the news, because we all know how the news is now. But it was just on point every single time. That was my confirmation. But most of this time I had been telling myself, I'm seeing that. And as I'm seeing that, even then, I'm seeing some of that stuff and I'm saying, I'm getting confirmation again, like I had in the past. I'm not alone. This is not just a me thing. I'm not the only one who can do these things or hears these things or sees these. I'm not. There's a lot of people out there like me who know it and either keep it private, or who know it and just have it in a certain circle, who haven't spoken publicly, or who know it and think they're crazy, who know it and have gone in on meds because they got cleared on schizophrenia or something like that. There are people out there like that with these abilities. I know of two of them personally in my life that I'm just realizing had that same ability or have that same ability. Just realizing that not too recently. And they don't know it. I didn't know it, and one passed away not knowing it. The other's still alive not knowing it. So a big part of why I'm doing this is because I know that there are other people suffering through what I suffer through. There are other people that need to hear this. There are other people that don't understand what they have inside of them yet and are afraid of it. There are other people who can speak to what I'm speaking to, and that's important, because if there's 20 more people who can say what I'm saying that I don't know and I never met, that will get some attention. That's going to say, hey, look, we had no contact. They also have this, oh, I can do this too. Oh, I learned this too. And before you know it, 20 becomes 100 and 100 becomes 1,000,000. And it grows and it grows and it grows. Because anyone who has experienced what I've experienced, anyone who's going through even a little bit of what I'm going through, if any part of my story touched someone and they can apply it to their life, they will know that there's truth to what I'm saying. And that's how you start your journey. You just have to see that there is truth. And then you have to dig. You have to dig inside of yourself, and you have to go deeper, and you have to figure out what else is true about me. What else did I not see? What else have I been lying about to myself, or have I been lied to? What else have I chosen out of laziness, out of easiness, out of whatever, Misguidedness, whatever. But you have to figure that out for yourself. So that's the importance of all these stories, and then we can dig into them. I just want to hit any others that I may have missed. There was a time where, and there was witnesses to this, I was in a kind of a restaurant place. It was like a, what do you call those? Where you go online and you get like a buffet kind of thing. Well, serving line, like a cafeteria. So I was in this place like cafeteria with serving line, and I was with some colleagues, and we were all professionals. The people who worked in the serving line worked for the same company that we work for. This is a couple of years in to my job with these people, right? And the people that were serving had also been a couple of years in. There was nobody new. I'm with the buddy. He's in front of me. He's getting, all right, let me get this, and I'm behind him, and let me get this, and you move from server to server. So he goes and gets up to his next server, and the server digs in, is about to give him his thing, and looks over and sees me and drops the whole thing, the food, everything, just drops it and jumps back, screaming, "You're dead. You're supposed to be dead. You died." And she's looking right at me. And the whole cafeteria stops. And everybody's just looking at each other like to figure out, is she, because she's not pointing, she's just like, but we're really close to each other. It's like this. So I'm like, I'm looking behind me and around. There's no one. You know, we have a very specific setup. It's like a line, so there's no one. So, and then I catch my buddy looking at me, and then everybody's looking at me. So I'm like, she is talking to me. Everybody's looking at me. So she's freaking out saying this, and she's just like in shock. And I go, "Who do you think I am?" My buddy goes, "Who do you think he is?" And she's just stuck. "You're dead. You're dead. It's you. I know it's you. You're not supposed to be here." And we kind of just all looked at each other, and I already, this is well into me having these experiences and knowing about this stuff, but still I wanted to lie to myself. Instead of even talking to that lady and giving her the time of day and seeing what it is she had inside of her and discussing or, you know, building each other or anything like that, I just dismissed it because I was in front of everybody, looked at me, you know, and I felt the eyes on me. And for me, that caused me to go back in my shell because I'm naturally an introvert and I'm already thinking I'm crazy. I'm like, no, I'm not going to show that here. You kidding me? They'll take that back to work and that's it. That's everything. I lose everything. And I wasn't ready to let go of everything. So no way. Instead, I let her suffer in silence. And my response was just kind of being sarcastically like, "I'm sorry. Can I have some whatever the food is?" You know, like I didn't know. And they had to pull her aside and they continued serving us. I got down the line, and because this was such a big stir, everybody's still talking about it, I get down to the line and asked one of her colleagues, "Has she done that before? Is she we had temp sometimes? Is she a temp? Is she, you know?" And they're like, "No, she's been here for X amount of years. We've never seen anything like, she's fine. She's normal. She's like one of it. We've never seen her do that." And that was it. And we dismissed it and we kept going. Now I know, I have escaped death many times. That's a whole nother set of stories. I have escaped death many times, not on purpose, because again, most of that time I was seeking it. But there was always something that got in the way and brought me back, all the way up until the point where I actually did die and leave my body. And even then, it was beautiful. It was one of the best experiences of my life. It was amazing. I want to do it again. It's like going on the best roller coaster ride ever. You know, like I'm excited for that day, but I know now that I can't, it's not my choice. That I have the free will and I can choose that. Let me rephrase that. I can choose that. It's called suicide. I can choose that, right? But I know it's not the right choice. I know it's not. If I do that, I'm not aligning my will with his will. I'm simply being selfish and taking my will. And I understand, because I lived through it. I understand that people, you know, it doesn't feel selfish when you're there. It feels like you're alone and isolated. And I guarantee you, anyone who's ever been that close to suicide, all they needed was one person to see them in that moment. Just one person to see them and understand what they were going through. And I guarantee you that's a life saved every time. And it doesn't matter. These people are surrounded by loved ones all the time. And we lose them. We lose the loved ones. Why? Because we thought we saw them. We thought we were paying attention. We thought we were, but we didn't. We saw ourselves. We saw through our filters. We were caught up in our own sin. And that's what we project out, and that's what we take back in. And that blinds you to the person that's right in front of you the whole time. And before you know it, it's too late and that person is gone. Not because they were trying to be selfish, but because the pain was simply too much to bear alone.
So why did she flip out like that? Was there any...
I never found out because I wasn't listening. I ignored it. I moved on. But I understand now, in retrospect, I don't have a divine answer. I don't have an energetic answer or anything like that. All I can do is look back now and say, I probably was supposed to be. Because there were so many times If I go into all those examples, you'll understand that it was divine intervention that kept me alive.
Understandable, but
Yeah.
did she know you?
I don't know, but just like the story with the lady that came from upstairs and went straight into my sister's room and talked to her. She didn't know us either, and she still had a message. So think about it this way. If what I'm saying is true, and I'm not the only one, and we all have this ability, we just have to tap into it and learn it and understand it and accept it and live in it and get to it through all the garbage that's in our way, on all the obstacles. If we all have that ability, some are just more sensitive than others, then both the lady that came in to talk to my sister was sensitive like me. And the lady that was saying that I'm supposed to be dead was sensitive like me. And I could absolutely tie in the connection from my sister's death all the way to the lady that came to talk to her, all the way to the lady that told me I'm supposed to be dead, all the way to me and all this stuff. I can tie that in. But again, that's not the point of this. We can go in that offline if you guys want, and we can discuss that. That'll drag us out a whole lot more. I want to really focus on like these points. Because then after this, we're going to move into the message, and then that's the final piece.
So how about when you died? What was that situation?
So when I died, I had just finished, I just got out of a divorce. I just buried my father a little bit before that. I had just went through some financial restraints. I had just went through some work issues. I had just everything. And I was finally done, and I had some time off. And in that time that I had off, I was celebrating my newfound freedom, my freedom from work. So
Newfound freedom.
yeah, newfound freedom. So I'm in this newfound freedom. I'm partying my ass off. I'm like single, you know what I mean? No, nothing to weigh me down. It was just me. And I had assets. I had money. I was in a much brighter situation than I had been prior. So I had money to burn through. I had time to waste. I had everything. So I'm going out. I'm drinking. I'm partying. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. And I went from a really healthy lifestyle where I was running up quite literal mountains. I was running up mountains, or up and down mountains as part of my workout routine. Eating healthy. I was getting into some really good shape. I was pretty happy with myself for a while. And I went from, I know, so rude. Hold on. Yeah. So I went from I went from this really good shape, like the best that I had been in a very long time. You know, I was getting a lot of compliments, everything. And I went from that to, in a matter of months, of all this partying and everything else, this sickness that I had already had, that had already been building in me, that I had already been dealing with for a while, just multiplied, just overnight, right? I got sick within 2 months of this partying. I got sick. Within a month of that, which was December of 2017, it was just after Christmas, before New Year's. I got to the point where I was so sick that I lost 20 pounds in 1 month, right? Like, that's how bad it was. I was dehydrating. People around me were frightened for me. Like, we all thought I was going to die. It was like, and then I did. What wound up happening was I was passing out. I was blacking out. I was stuck in bed for 18 hours a day. I couldn't move. It was horrible. So this one day, I'm having a really bad day, and I'm exhausted, and I'm tired. And this is a time at this point where, just because I was happy when I was partying. I was the happiest I'd ever been. But at this point, I'm sick. I've got no health care process, you know what I mean? I've got no one to care for me medically. I've got no one to care for me to look into what I'm looking at. And I'm young. And on the outside, I was looking still pretty good because I was healthy right before that. So they're like, you're young, you're healthy, you just did all this stuff. And no, you're fine. It's in your head. You're depressed. No, I was happy when I got sick, you know? I was happy. I was partying. I got sick, and now I'm depressed. And the more you tell me I'm depressed, the more I become depressed because you're not hearing me, right? And that's the healthcare system that I had to deal with. So on this day, I had been so exhausted and so drained and so tired. I was literally praying for death. I was praying for death. I wasn't at a point where I was trying to kill myself. I wasn't. But I was praying for death. I was like, please show me the mercy. Please say, I know I'm not, like, maybe I don't go to heaven, but purgatory, something. Like, that's how bad it was. I was like, just release me from here. And I started to, this was earlier in the day. Later in the day, I start to get sick again to where I'm about to pass out. And I feel the draining coming from me. And I feel like, almost like when you're drunk and you're about to, you're stumbling and you're like, oh, I don't know what's what. I was kind of there, sober, but there. And so I had to find my way to my bed. And as I was finding my way to my bed, I found it more and more difficult to breathe. I wasn't getting, it didn't feel like I was getting air the right way. So I'm literally just passing out and I'm fighting to make it to my bed. And I make it to my bed and I fall forward on the bed. And all I remember is taking that last breath. And it was like, and I'm asthmatic, it was like asthma. I had nothing to trigger asthma. This felt like the other stuff that I was sick with, right? But whatever it was affecting my breathing. And I felt like in the middle of an asthma attack, when you're taking that, as you struggle through it and it gets worse and worse, it gets harder and harder to breathe. And the closer you get to that, it's like, this might be my last breath, or this might be my last breath, because it's just that tight. So that's what I felt as I was passing out. I felt my last breath, what I thought was my last breath, because of how it passed. It was hard. It was hard to get it. And I was like, and then I just let go and everything faded to black. And that was it. I was out. The very next thing I remember, I find myself I'm not seeing yet without eyes. So I just find myself, I felt myself floating. And I felt myself floating up and up and up. And what I see is just the room. It wasn't darkness like death or darkness like demons. It was darkness like a room being dark. That's it. It was a room. I saw the very room that I had just passed out in. I saw the room. And then while I'm floating and I'm feeling this lightness and I'm trying to figure it out and figure out what's happening, I'm starting to see the entire room in 360. I can see the whole room. I can see the room and I can see myself, right? Let me back up a little bit. When I passed out and it was darkness, what I felt before I was floating, there was an important part there. What I felt before I was floating was, imagine pulling a really good Band-Aid off of a hairy spot, right? That pull and that pain and all that. I felt something pulling from inside of me. And the pull it hurt a little bit. It felt, but not like, oh, the worst pain. It hurt in a way that you would pull off a Band-Aid. It felt literally like someone was ripping my soul out of me. And my instinct, I'm a fighter. I've been fighting all my life. My instinct has been tested. It's fight or flight, I fight. And that was my instinct. I didn't know what was happening. I just knew that if it was painful and something was pulling at the inside of me. And with my experiences with darkness and all that stuff, I'm thinking demon or something. So I'm fighting. And the more I fight, the more it hurts. And then finally, I lose that battle. And that's when I start floating, right? But the whole time, I'm not seeing what's happening. I'm just feeling that. I start floating. Now I start to see. And I'm seeing the room and I'm seeing everything. And I see my body on the bed. And then I see myself. And I'm beautiful, by the way. I'm this beautiful blue light, like a star. Like literally, the light is like that of a star. It's just the color, the tone, the energy to it is like that of a star. It's like a light energy that was conscious. I could see in 360. I was aware. I was just as aware as I've been in my body without a brain. I was just as aware. I understood that this is my room. I understood that that's my body. And at this point, I'm understanding what's happening. Oh, I died. I'm dead. But it wasn't sad. My life didn't flash before my eyes. I didn't see a white light or anything like that. I also didn't see hell or dark tunnel. I was just in this same space, but as a different being. I'd left my body. So I experience all this and I see it. And as I'm starting to process it, the more that I'm seeing and I'm starting to process, the more I'm letting go of that fight. Because originally I was just fighting because I'm like, what's happening, right? But once I understood I'm dead, I let go. I was like, this is exactly what I prayed for. I let go. I was not wanting to go back in my body. I did not want to come back to this. I ain't even gonna lie. I didn't want to come back to this. This feeling after that initial pull, was amazing. It was, the weight was gone. The weight that we carry every day, the weight of our sins, the weight of this world, the weight of the disgustingness that we treat each other with, and how we look at each other. All of that was just gone, and nothing else mattered. Nothing. And at that time, I had some very precious people in my life, and still, I was happy to go, right? Because it felt that amazing. The minute that I finally processed the whole thing, and I understood it, and I accepted it, and I was happy for it, I got slammed right back in my body. And when I say slammed, I have been in fights. I've been body slammed. It felt like a body slam. I didn't see, in these other experiences, I've seen demons, I've seen angels, I've seen the other forces. I could not see any force. It was just me in the space. There was nothing. I couldn't see an angel. I couldn't see, I'd see God. I could not see any force. It happened so quickly. It was just literally like I'm here enjoying it, and all of a sudden someone I didn't see came from behind me or something, like that kind of stuff, but I'm seeing 360. But to explain it, it felt like someone from my blind spot basically just came at me and body slammed me hard. So hard that when I woke up, my body was kind of like tight, like I just got hit. Like I just got hit. And when I came out of it, the first thing I remember doing is coming up and breathing. And it was like that kind of breath, like that gasping for air. And I looked around and I was still in that same space. And all of this happened for me. I should have looked at the time. I didn't. I don't know how long passed. But for me, I feel like the exact sequence, the way I just broke it down to you, it was just like that. Could have been 2 minutes. Could have been 30 seconds. I don't know. But I feel like it was time was kind of irrelevant at that point. It was just, it happened in that sequence, and it was back to back to back, and that was it. And then I was back. And so I had to process all of that, and I was like, what just happened, And this is 2017. This is after everything, right? This is after all the stuff I've told you so far. And still, I had to go through another 3 years of my body breaking down further, and me making more wrong choices, and me digging in deeper, and me getting to the point where at some point I finally did get to, it's one of those things, self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You get enough people saying, hey, he's gonna kill himself, so eventually you want to kill yourself, right? Just like if you, in a marriage, you're like, you're my enemy, eventually I'm gonna be your enemy, because you've left me no room to be anything else, right? So instead of seeing me and saying, what's going on? Why do you feel the way you feel? Why, or I'm getting this from you. I'm getting this vibe that you're depressed, or that it's giving me concern about you. Why am I getting that vibe? Can you talk to me? Or instead of doing that, it was talking to each other and worried about him and stuff like that going on. Nobody saw me. And eventually I did get to the point where I was like, after I died, I wanted to do myself in. After I died, I wanted that experience again, but I still was lying to myself about stuff, and I still knew that I always knew that if I had pulled that trigger, that if I'd done myself in, I knew it was not the choice. It was not what was designed for me. It was not what I was meant for. I knew that I was cutting everything short. I knew that I was being selfish. I knew that. But it was just so much pain, and I was so alone in it, and I didn't know how to carry it anymore, that I was to that point where, even though I knew that the consequences of my actions would be severe, I thought about every person that I would hurt. I thought about every person, how they would move on and how it would affect them, because I remember my sister's death, and I see the spider web and how it affected, to this day, people that weren't even born yet have been affected by my sister's death. So I understand how such a tragedy can affect more than one life in a huge way and have ripple effects throughout time. And that held me back a good part of the way. Then I gave up a few times, and I almost did it. And each time I did, again, something intervened. Each time something intervened, they would not let me die. So, which is what I understood later that whole thing to be. I prayed for death, and that was my oh yeah, you really want it, and then I was like yeah, and I really did. They're like no, it's not time. It was to show me you are not supposed to be dead. You are not supposed to die yet. You have a purpose. You need to fulfill that and all this other stuff. And so I understand that now, but at the time, it was still, again, I was lying and running from it. I was running from it. So it took me 3 more years of choosing the wrong path, 3 more years of digging further into my sin, 3 more years of lying to myself, 3 more years of being lied to. 3 more years of no one lifting me up and no one caring for me. And that's, again, these are my choices, so it's on me. But I'm trying to expose how everything works, how we all interconnect, and how we all need to do our part for ourselves so that we can do our part for others, right? And how God ties into all of that. That was my death experience, though. Let me just make sure I'm not missing any other important ones here, and then we can go into whatever questions. I spoke to a dog. That was another good one. And I remember this is what I was doing, to test people and figure out what's real and what's not, and who believes me and who sees me and whatever. I told a family member, and I told the owner of the dog that I spoke to. I speak to dogs, and I spoke to a dog. And I got laughed at. So I said, okay. It didn't bother me. I expected that reaction. What I didn't expect was I told technically a non-family member, a girlfriend of one of my family members, but she's family as far as we're concerned, right? But a girlfriend of one of my family members who doesn't know me that well, right? We're distant. And I told her in brief conversation, and she said, really, how did that work? Just like that, straight face. How did that work? Like how? Like you mean like verbally, or was it like how did it work? I didn't get that reaction from any of my family or my friends, right? She was ready to listen. She didn't look at me like I was a nut job. She said, explain it to me. She didn't necessarily believe, because we talked about it later, and she's like, I don't think you're crazy. I just don't necessarily, I don't understand it, right? I can respect that. That is a brother to sister thing. That is, I see that you've got something, I don't understand it yet, but I'm not going to knock you for it. Right? I'm going to listen. I'm going to be here for you and see what comes. So the story with the dog was, I house sat this dog of a coworker one time, a colleague, I guess, and it was 4 days, 2 hours a day. So it's about 8 hours, right? 2, 4, 6, 8. So 8 hours one time. Several months later, did that same thing again. That's my entire time house sitting this dog. So a total of maybe 16 hours, right? Did not have any training with this dog. The dog's owner trained the dog, right? But nothing with me. And the dog's owner trained the dog to be loyal to the family and protect, against anyone else. The second time I went to go house sit this dog throughout that 4 days, something was off. The dog wasn't bleeding or limping or anything like that, but something was off with the dog. It's it doesn't feel right. The energy was wrong. So I sat down with the dog, and they say, I've heard some people say, oh, you're not supposed to make eye contact with this animal or that animal, but I never found that to be true. Since I was a kid, I've always made eye contact with animals, and I've had chipmunks and squirrels approach me and stuff like that from these things that I did. But at the time, I didn't really tie into everything, right? I just thought it was a cool trick. But I came to this moment, and I sit down on the floor with this dog. I'm on my butt, so we're level. And I'm looking her in the eyes, and in my head, I'm talking to her. And I'm telling her, I'm sorry. I see that you're in pain. You're being neglected, aren't you? You're not being taken care of. You're being abused. Not necessarily beaten, but abused. I don't know. I'm not sure she was hit. But I I could see it in her eyes. I could see the pain. I could see the loneliness. I could see the hurt, the abandonment that she was feeling. And so I told her all of that, and I told her that I love her, and I told her that I would try to take care of her for as long as I can, and that I'm sorry that I can't take her with me and that I can't take her away from this. I had this conversation with her. She told me in response, yes, she is being abused. Yes, she is being neglected. And she said, thank you. And she said, I love you too. So this is what I got from this nonverbal conversation, right? What comes out of that is, by the time I go to leave on that last day with her, without no training, I didn't do anything to her. I didn't feed her to do tricks, or I just simply just fed her and put her in her kennel. Always come over, check her out, and that was it, right? Didn't do anything specific with her. She comes up to me, and she puts her paw out and puts it kind of down like that, and she bows her head before me. And I've never seen a dog do that in person, but I've heard about it. I've heard that you can train a dog to, when you train a dog so much that you're the master and they see you as the master, that is the dog being submissive to you, saying, I submit to you, you are my master. Right? But I've never seen it done. I don't know how to, I don't know how to train dogs like that. Like, I'm sure I could learn, but I've never done it. I'm allergic, right? I'm allergic to animals. So I'm like, I don't, but, she did that all on her own. And I thought that was weird. And at first I thought maybe he had trained her to do that to him. And now she's choosing to do that to me. But I didn't say anything about it, right? So time goes on, and I questioned him on it. When I found out, I was like, hey, I talked to doggies one-on-ones. And he just laughed it off. And I was like, okay. And then I asked him separately. I'm like, are you taking care of her? Do you need help? I'm trying to, because if he is letting out or abusing the dog or neglecting the dog, I'm not looking at him in shame. This is my brother. I'm not judging him. I've done it. I did it as a 5-year-old. I understand it. It's not okay. And it's a shame and a guilt we will all have to live. Any of us that have done something like that will have to live it to the last of our days. But I also am not casting stones at him. I feel sorry for him. I feel for my brother, because I understand that he's going through something that he may not even understand. And he doesn't know how to let it out right. And he's taking out on such a beautiful, innocent soul. Yes, that dog has a soul. Such a beautiful, innocent soul. He's taking it out on the same way that I did in my ignorance. And so I gave him the chance. And of course, just like everybody else, they're going to lie, because he's not going to expose his shame. It's a hard thing to do. That takes courage. And you have to want to do that. Nobody wants to expose their shame. Nobody wants to expose their shame. Every single person on this planet, from nuns, priests, I don't care who they are, everybody's got shame. And nobody wants to expose it. And I get it. I don't want to expose. I would not be here exposing my shame if it wasn't because I was told to, if it wasn't because I was led here, and if it wasn't for the people that I love, right? This is above all else for you guys, but also hopefully for other people that I may not know, that are also my brothers and sisters that I may not have met, that could use this word. But I tried, and he didn't listen. He lied, and I was like, okay. Time would go on, like a year, I want to say, at least a year. And I hadn't been around this dog. I hadn't been around him or anything like that, because, like I said, it was a colleague. So I went over, and I walked in the house one day, and hey, what's up, whatever, been a long time, and the dog was outside. And at this point, they're telling me, oh, the dog doesn't like guys at all, never did, since she was a pup. I didn't know that, but they're saying she never liked guys, like down to the owner himself. She always gave him a hard time. She would bark at him, she would fight with him, never listened to a single guy, but she was great with girls. Any girl that was in that house, any girl come up brand new, never met him, she would be loving with them, she would be caring with them, but she did not like guys. So every time I would come in, like this time I came in, it happened like 2 or 3 times in front of him. The dog would always come to me. The dog would always listen to me. I would have to tell the dog to listen, like go listen to you, so she doesn't get in trouble. Because, people who are training their dogs, they get mad when the dog is now listening to other people. You're breaking the training. So I still didn't say anything about our experience. I didn't say, I'm just like, all right, go. Well, finally, we're sitting down and talking, and the dog comes up to me and bows her paw and bows her head right in front of him. And he saw it. And he's like, what is that? And I didn't comment on it because, again, he's not ready to hear that I can talk to dogs. I tried. He's not ready to hear it. So, and he knows I didn't train the dog. He knows I'm allergic. He knows I have to minimize my time around him, so he's like, At the end, he wound up offering me the dog, and he knew I think he started to suspect that what I was saying was true, but he was still afraid to make that confrontation, right? So he ended up giving the dog away, and I made sure he didn't hurt it. And I was like, okay, that's fair. I wanted to take her because for me, that is and that's why he offered her to me. He knew she's loyal to me. She's loyal to me. That is my dog. That is my girl, my baby. And I did. I fell in love with her. A dog. I never thought. I see these people with these. I'm not an animal. Like, I love animals, but I'm not an animal person where I hate that whole thing of putting clothes on them and treating them like they're human. I hate that whole thing. I don't know why. It's just annoying to me, right? But at the same time, I also know that they do have a light in them. They do have a soul. They are our friends. They are here for us. So I'm starting to understand more of that. I still don't approve of like spending millions. You know what I mean? Like, it's just unnecessary. But I also don't approve of spending millions on ourselves. Like, if you got $1 billion and you're not giving it and you're not spending it to build and do for other people, then you're just being wasteful, right? You're wasting your opportunity, your chance, your everything to use something that is made up by us, money, that carries a lot of negative energy with it, to do something good for your brothers and sisters. So I don't agree with anybody who's spending money even on humans, right? Let alone dogs. Not because they're lesser than us, but because it's not needed. But I'm understanding that they're not lesser than us. It's not, again, if we're supposed to lift each other up, you can't tell me you're going to lift me up and if I'm way down there. If that's where you're keeping me down there, you're not going to reach me. And I can't reach out to you if you're that far above me. So you can't hold yourself above, nor can I put you on that pedestal, right? Self-esteem issues. I deal with this all the time with other people who put me on a pedestal and put themselves below me. And it frustrates the hell out of me because it's usually females in a relationship. And it frustrates the hell out of me because if I'm trying to lift you up and I'm trying to reach out your hand and you put yourself below me, I still can't reach you. I can't reach you because you won't let me. And that's so frustrating because it's someone you love and someone you want to lift up. It's a relationship that you want to make it work. And you can give it your all. And if that other person is not lifting their own selves up, then I can't help lift them up either. It takes us both. You see what I'm saying? It works both ways. If you're putting me down, it's not going to work. And if I'm putting me down, it's not going to work. If you're lifting yourself up through ego, it's not going to work. And if I'm lifting you up on a pedestal, it's not going to work. We need to walk hand in hand so that anytime we fall even a step, we're there to lift the other one up. Because I've not met a single person that can walk through this life alone and make all the right choices and get to that final destination and do good and be good and evolve, truly evolve to their full potential. I've never met anyone who could do that without the help of someone else. And I have not done that without the help of this. I've had help. You know what I mean? The human accomplishments, the things I've done in this world of this earth and material, I did a lot of that by myself. But I also had help with some of that too along the way. I had help here and there, and I have to acknowledge that. But this spiritual journey, I definitely did not do by myself. I didn't do by myself. Even though people didn't see me, there were people who did. And each step of the way that someone saw me, it saved me from going the wrong path. Each step of the way that someone stopped me, it saved me from going the wrong path. Each person, I have many people that have now saved my life. Like, I can literally say, you saved my life, you saved my life, you saved my... That is... How many people save your life? You know what I mean? But that's my life. Literally, I can literally say I have multiple people that have saved my life because I've been that close